Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review comes from Japan. What a shocker. From 1960, and it's When a Woman Ascends the Stairs. The first Naruse film that I've seen. Yes, I've got a huge Naruse hole as well as an Ozu hole. This is Criterion DVD, spine number 377. I don't believe it's available in the West on Blu-ray, I could be wrong. This is another great Japanese film that's only on DVD. This Criterion has a fairly thick and luscious booklet, and it has a fair bit in it. It's got 4 essays. They Endure by Philip Lopati, Diary of a Ginza Bar Hostess by Catherine Russell, The Essential Naruse by Audie Bok, and About Mikio Naruse by Hideko Takamine, who is the star of the film. And as I was watching the film, I knew she looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place her. And of course recently she was in Yasuo Masamura's The Wife of Shisu Hanuka, which is absolutely brilliant, where she plays a fairly nasty and controlling matriarch who bullies Ayako Wakao terribly, whereas in when a woman ascends the stairs, you basically want to adopt her. The film co-stars Tatsuya Nakadai, the wonderful Tatsuya Nakadai, in an interesting role for him. Also, it's 1960, so this is just after The Human Condition, so it's fairly early in his career. It also stars a host of familiar faces. One of the 7 samurai, probably the roundest 7 samurai, and also one of the triangle in Rashomon that's not Toshiro Mifune. It's a really good print, even though, as I said, it's just DVD. There's a commentary by Donald Ritchie. We've got a couple of his books on Kurosawa, and also he wrote 100 Years of Japanese Film, which I have as well. And there's a wonderful interview from 2005 with Tatsuya Nakadai, where he talks about how much he learned from Takamine, because again he was relatively young and she was a lot more experienced, even though he said he was quite scared of her, and how Naruse worked a kind of generally a different way than all the other filmmakers he made films with, which is quite a lot of filmmakers. And there's also a trailer, so as you'd expect, it's a really good release from Criterion, which I would highly urge you to pick up. So I mean, this is a relatively simple story. There's not that much to say about it really, apart from it's absolutely brilliant, and almost became my film of the year after just doing a video about the film of the year, another Masamura's film, but this one is really special as well. As I said, this is my first Naruse, even though I will be picking up Floating Clouds from BFI, which is recently released, again starring Takamine, because she actually appears in quite a lot of Naruse films. So this is really about her character, Kiko, or Mama as she's called, because she's kind of the lead woman in a Ginza bar in Bar Carton, which is kind of based on a real life bar where gentlemen go for drinks in the company of young ladies. And it's about her struggles and travails. It's a amazing performance by her. It's kind of ironic that Japan isn't or hasn't been kind of the most forward-thinking country in the world regarding women, but there's so many directors that give women great roles in these great Japanese films about women, and this is no exception. This is absolutely fantastic. So she's kind of the leader, and she is managed by Nakadai. He's the manager of the club, who doesn't get involved with any of the girls up to a point, because he's professional and he's Nakadai. But all the kind of regulars, so we have a banker who's played by the guy who was in Rashomon, who flaunts the bank's money around. You've got the jolly round Seven Samurai guy who is a factory owner, and you have other characters vying for Takamine's womanhood, shall we say. One of her best girls, Yuri, has left and taken quite a few of the customers with her to her own bar, where you get the feeling there's slightly more offered than drinks and just a bit of company. And Kiko, or Mama, is taken by the banker to visit this bar and see it's more glitzy and glamorous, and there's more of a more Western clothing being worn by the women rather than kimonos, which is what Mama wears. So even though it's 1960 and the American occupation finished in 1953, there's still that feeling of the Western influences against the more kind of traditional influence. Kiko is also under pressure from her own brother, who's always wanting money. The girls kind of dream of either getting married and getting out of the business, or opening up their own bar, as Yuri has done. And really the film is just about the relationships between all these characters and how they shift. So we open with one of the girls actually leaving because she's getting married, and this idea of being married, even if it's not to somebody you're particularly in love with or attracted to, but because they have money, it's a way of getting out of this not very pleasant job. And you have the female owner of the bar who just kind of pops in and out just to order Mama about, and then you've got Nakadai, who obviously likes Mama but at some point still has to read her the riot act every now and again to keep her and the girls, the other women, in line. And as I said, you've got the pressure from Kiko's own family to give them money for this and that, even though they don't approve of her and what she's doing, even although she's the one getting the money. So she's she's kind of attacked on all sides. But again, she has wiles. She still has her strength and dignity up to a point. She was married, but her husband died, and there's this rumour that she put a letter into his urn of ashes, which some people view as romantic, and she would never give herself to another man. She promised her husband's ashes. So again, as far as plot and narrative drive, there isn't really one at all. It's about the characters, and you do want to spend time with Mama Kiko, because you're instantly on her side. You do get an internal monologue from her, as far as how she hates going up those steps, or up the stairs in the title. And she would quite like to get out and own her own place. As I said, it's an interesting role for Nakadai, because he is very controlled. He doesn't want to get involved with the women, even though there's plenty of women who would quite like to be involved with him. Obviously, he's Nakadai, but he does get moments to explode out of that controlled veneer. Everybody's kind of under pressure from other people. Money walks and bullshit. No, money talks and bullshit walks. Money walks and bullshit talks sometimes. It's beautifully shot. Most of it's at night. There's a wonderful sequence where Kiko's delivering one of her monologues again, her internal monologue or narration, and it's basically the best. Around about midnight, like 16,000 women who work in Ginza bars go home, and the best ones go home by taxi, and the next tier go home by train, and the worst ones go home with customers. It has very much a feel of John Perrin Melville and kind of Louis Malle's Elevator to the Gallows, or Lift to the Scaffold, as far as it's that Japan at night. It feels very much like Paris in those 50s and 60s films at night. It's got the same kind of vibe. It has a really beautiful melancholy about the film. You do get the feeling that these women are trapped, and they are looking for that escape of marriage or going their own way, but owning your own bar isn't necessarily the dream that some of them think it's going to be. The same way marriage isn't always the dream that they think it's going to be. It does show these businessmen kind of just using these women. And again, as I said, Japan historically hasn't been the best country in the world for treating women properly. But yeah, as I said, the paradox of there's so many great Japanese films about women and giving female actors such great roles. And as I said, this is no different, because it's an absolute corker. This is when a woman ascends the stairs, and it's absolutely brilliant. And of course it's interesting because I've went on like a huge Nakadai binge the last year or so, and obviously my appreciation for Nakadai has kind of only got better and better. It's fun to go back now and actually see one of his earlier roles just after The Human Condition, as I say. And you can tell, even though he doesn't have that much to do, because again, he's very a controlled person, because he has to be. It's just fascinating to watch him work, and as he says in the interview, which I would highly recommend, he learned so much from Hideko Takamine. So thanks very much for watching this random review of When a Woman Ascends the Stairs from 1960. I would say it's easily one of those classics of Japanese cinema, and well deserved classics. Sometimes you watch classics and they don't really age. I mean, this is made in 1960 and it's pretty modern. I'm sure the same things are sadly going on, so it is actually a pretty modern film. And I'm sure the bars nowadays don't actually look that much different from what they looked like in 1960. Yeah, so another one I would highly recommend. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you've seen When a Woman Ascends the Stairs, which is quite a mouthful, and what you thought of it. And hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.